what was strange is that the spike occurred 8.3 minutes before we would be able to see that solar flare, because light travels, at a limited speed. It takes 8.3 minutes for light to get from the sun to the Earth. But his spikes showed up instantaneously. So this is the first evidence that there's something that travels much faster than light that affects the body and affects the acupuncture system, and we can measure it physically. Since then, the Russians have done a lot of work on what they call torsion, which is their version of the same psychic force. And they do find there's an element of that that does travel much faster than light, so that now even telescopes have been devised which can measure this energy, and they show that that signal does travel faster than light. So this is, again, another revolutionary aspect of physics that most Western scientists are just ignoring, but it's really important.
Our bodies are made of about 90+% water, which is hydrogen, oxygen, and we're also made of minerals and carbon. The sun is made of over 90% hydrogen, trace oxygen, and trace minerals and helium. It's made of almost the same stuff we are. So inversely, if the sun can send us telepathic messages faster than the speed of light, we can send the sun telepathic messages faster than the speed of light. And what that means is, every 11 years, according to NASA, we come into solar maximums, where solar flares are a potential threat to our planet. If we can learn to pray and talk to the sun as a living being, not as a god, not as the god of creation, but if we can talk to the sun as a living being, can we collectively, with billions of minds together, ask the sun to calm itself, to harmonize itself with us, and not to harm us? Can we do that? Are our collective minds that powerful?
If we consider Dr. Tiller's model once again, realizing that consciousness is operating in a domain beyond the gamma ray spectrum, consciousness has the power to create a universe. Considering a short 10-second gamma ray burst from a supernova will release more energy than our sun will in its entire multi-billion-year lifetime, consciousness in the magneto-electric spectrum and beyond is even more powerful than that. If we could access this through coherent awareness, we could become like gods and goddesses.
To me, we are all spirits having a physical experience as we ride the river of life together. Our spiritual parents dressed us in these bio-body suits, put us in this playpen that we call a universe, in order to grow in coherence, in order to develop our gifts of intentionality, and in order to become what we were intended to become, co-creators with our spiritual parents. And co-creator means to eventually evolve into the place where you could interact with planets and you could co-create planets or stars. So it's in the game as far as I see it. We're not anywhere near the end of physics, the theory of everything. We're just babes crawling across the floor of the universe. We've hardly begun the great adventure. And all of these things are possible. We manipulate this universe. That's why it's here for us. It's our classroom. No other way to become co-creators on this magnificent scale. But that's in our future from this planet's level of activity. We have to move and become coherent at the deeper levels of nature.
Using Einstein's equation of converting frequencies into mass energy, the higher the frequency, the higher the energy. Any frequency into the gamma ray spectrum, the magneto-electric spectrum and beyond, coupled with matter, has the power to create anything we can imagine, including the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe.
The coherence at this level of nature is very good. I mean, we can make lasers. We can convert the potential of a light bulb from 50 watts to create temperatures 10 times the surface of the sun if you could make all those photons, electromagnetic photons, coherent. But the dimensionality of the higher dimensions, just as this one, okay, if you look at the most coherent aspect for electromagnetic laser is the wavelength of the light you're dealing with. So but now if you go to the next level of the vacuum, magnetic information wave level, you've changed the size scale by 10 orders of magnitude. And then to the next level, another 10 orders of magnitude. And the next level, another 10 orders of magnitude. And so to be coherent at those inner levels, really coherent, the energy densities are beyond your imagining. So it isn't just that it goes c squared, c cubed, c to the fourth. The size scale goes down and down and down. The wavelength goes up and up and up. And the power, ultimately, is huge. So in principle, all of the things I've talked about appear to be possible.
It is information at this level of reality that tells matter what to do. Consciousness at the magneto-electric spectrum and beyond can also power a spacecraft at the speed of light squared and beyond. Does this give us a new understanding and a new vision of God? When you make the two into one, you will become children of Adam. And when you say, mountain, move from here, it will move. Jesus, the Gospel of Thomas. By tapping into just a small amount of this consciousness, certainly we could change the weather, and we could talk to the sun to ask it to do anything.
Imagine for a moment if a hurricane was coming in the future. But now, as people, instead of what we're doing with the weather forecasts, which is we're amplifying the fear and we're looking at all the blowing of the winds and all the torment and so on, imagine instead we had millions or billions of people simultaneously engaged in an organized, synchronized, guided imagery over the media of sending loving intentions and calming intentions to a storm, or even was redirecting it to a safer environment. Would we find that the storm was diminished? Would we find that the storm might be moved? Well, we'll never discover it unless we look for it. If we don't ask the questions and we don't try it, we'll never know whether it matters or not.
The key to talking to nature is to know its harmonic language. When we examine this photo of ordinary water, flash frozen while it was exposed to the sound of the sun, we can see it transforms from its ordinary state of disorder into the most perfect sacred geometry. Is there a purpose to the sun's sound waves broadcasting throughout the solar system? Is it a sort of language? Does the sound of the sun bring order to the 9 planets? Pythagoras discovered that all of the planets were producing a sort of cosmic music he called the music of the spheres. When NASA recorded the sounds of Saturn, researchers were in awe. The sound of Uranus. The sound of Jupiter. The sound of the earth. When we hear the sound of the earth, we can see it sounds deeply similar to the sounds of birds singing. NASA scientists were astounded when they heard the sounds of the earth for the first time, because they knew the birds understood the secret language of the universe and the earth itself. They were singing as if in a dialogue with the creation. When Pythagoras had finished his studies, the HeartMath Institute's Global Coherence Initiative uses scientific technology to perceive electromagnetic changes in the Earth's ionosphere that are coherent with global human consciousness. Because the human heart produces electromagnetic energies and even more powerful subtle energies, millions or even billions of human hearts experiencing profound emotions due to global coherence initiatives or global events will cause measurable changes in the Earth's ionosphere to appear. These changes will prove to science and the world the power of human emotions on a global and cosmic scale.
Our researchers and a team that they've assembled are building what's called the Global Coherence Monitoring System. This is a system that's being made up of very sensitive sensors that measure changes in the Earth's ionosphere. The ionosphere is the Earth's protective layer around the Earth. And these sensors can measure very subtle changes in the ionosphere. The goal is, over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe a little longer depending on how fast the project moves, is we want to put between 50 and 100 of these sensors around the globe, have them all network back to a central location, and be able to get a complete picture of the ionosphere 24/7. Our belief is that when there are large numbers of people feeling similar emotions, mass emotional output, that could be detectable in the ionosphere. We know from other research like Dr. Roger Nelson and the Global Consciousness Project using random number generators, showing changes in these random number generators when there's strong emotionality occurring in the world, like at 9/11. There's other indicators that show that there are possible measurable changes that occur when large numbers of people are feeling something. We want to conduct experiments on the effect of positive emotional states being generated by large numbers of people on the Earth itself. In a sense, sort of metaphorically, what we're attempting to do is to measure the brain waves and heart rhythms of the planet itself.
By engaging our consciousness collectively into the global media and buying into the violence and the fear and all of the sensationalism, collectively with 6 billion minds on the planet, we are transmitting consciousness and reinforcing that delusion. We're giving it more energy. We're telling it to maintain itself. And possibly, scientific researchers are finding that our consciousness is actually cooperatively responsible for all this, because consciousness is far more powerful than we can even imagine.
The best example I see to explain it is like the movie Catch Me If You Can, where Leonardo DiCaprio hides himself around 10 beautiful girls, and the cops are all looking at the beautiful girls, and so he gets to sneak by, and that's kind of, you know, we're completely being distracted while these other agendas are going on. And also it's, you know, it's putting us down constantly. It's saying, you know, I'm better than you, and just a lot of biasness as well. And it's kind of sad that we're giving a lot of our time to watching TV and, you know, speaking as opposed to action and being the change out in the world. Because the TV is always going to, you know, report about, you know, celebrities and what's going on in Hollywood and news, which is, you know, only 2% of the world is really negative, and they're just focusing and amplifying on that, so it makes it worse than it actually is. And particularly if we know our thoughts create reality, if you have millions of people seeing these images, what's it doing to our world and our psyche on a collective level?
You ask the bigger field of the question, and it feeds you the answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the question should be very precise. You can't answer questions, oh, what does it mean universe. What does it mean, God? It will be no answer. But if you give precise question, then you will get precise answer. And then, if you operate in some area, then situation will give you what you want by itself.
Through the practice of meditation, prayer, and insight, we can expand our minds and consciousness into the 9 levels of the universal field of the angelic kingdoms of God. The fields contain all knowledge, all memories, and all possibilities. All we have to do is access them with our minds. They have always been there to serve humanity and the universal knowledge and presence. Science is telling us that the 9-dimensional fields are perceptible to the mathematics of string theory. Science now realizes that there is a creative force in the universe that is intelligent, that it responds to our questions. It gives us creativity and insight as its intelligent answer. With these gifts that enter the mind, body, and soul, we can transform our world. With this new understanding of physics and consciousness, we can revolutionize our understanding of God. We don't have to forget what we already know and what we have